You're listening to Chatcast with your host, Tracee Dunblazier, the award-winning podcast that features interviews with luminaries of the mind-body-spirit marketplace. You'll hear from book authors and publishers, store owners and product creators, filmmakers, musicians, and many more, who'll all share insight and wisdom to help open your eyes to new creative possibilities. If you fancy yourself as a visionary thinker, then Chatcast is the place for you. Now, here's your host, spiritual empath, shaman, and best-selling author, Tracee Dunblazier.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is 11 a.m. Pacific time, and you are in the in-between realm. This is Tracee Dunblazier with Chatcast, and today we have a very special event going on every hour on the hour because we are celebrating this amazing new deck. And 11 o'clock is the creators hour. We have the special guests this hour are Yasmeen Westwood. See, Westwood right there, the artist. And then the editor, Stephen J. Miller, I'm just going to open up the little book so you can see. Editing me is never a walk in the park, as Stephen will attest to. Anyway, Yasmeen Westwood is an award-winning author. She has many, many, many awards to her name. She's a photo manipulation artist, and she just makes magical realms out of anything that you give her. And we created this deck together and had such a good time. And then Stephen J. Miller, he is a secret closeted reader. He reads, but not for everybody. But we're going to get him to give us a couple of cards today. And he is an editor extraordinaire and a novelist. He is amazing. And he has been with Go Tracee Publishing for for all of our publications except for two. And so anyway, I'm so excited to introduce the team to you. So here is Yasmeen and Stephen.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Welcome to the in-between times between morning and lunch on the West Coast, at least.
Well, it's evening here. It's 7 p.m. here where I am.
And where are you, Yasmeen?
I'm in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
at 7 p.m. it's still sort of in between time then.
It's still in between, yeah.
So actually, I was going to ask you guys a couple of questions first to kick things off. And, I know the answers, but it might be great for the audience to hear. Talking about the in-between times, what is the in-between times and what does that mean to you?
Well, for me, I'll go first. So the in-between, so it all started with about 20 years ago in July. It was just before it was abnormally cool on that day, and it was almost like the first day of fall, except for it was in July. And it was 3:00 in the afternoon. I was standing outside, and all of a sudden, it was this cool kind of overcast, chilly energy came through, and all of a sudden I was in the in-between realm, and I could see in the future and in the past. It was for the first, and I felt it internally. I don't know how to describe this because it felt like it was a physical thing, but it was this period of time. It's kind of like I said, when that first night when you feel like you need a blanket on the bed because it's too chilly, and it was in the middle of the afternoon, and I just felt this experience of having this hyper awareness to any information I wanted to access. And that to me is what the in-between times are. We can access them through dawn, dusk, midnight, and noon are all times of the in-between. Directions of the in-between are like northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast, right? Anything that is not on the cardinal, it's in the in-between, and we can experience that mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And when we tap into those in-between realms, that's where we are our most creative. We have access to the most information, We have access to what the truth is, not necessarily what we want to see as the truth, but the truth. And then from that, we can create or innovate a new idea and make a new decision. So that's what inspired my relationship to this deck. How about you, Yasmeen?
Pretty much the same, I guess. For me, when I'm creating, I feel like I am in that in-between place. Because, and I've said this before in other interviews as well, I don't consciously create. I never, ever consciously create. I never know what the image is going to look like by the time it's finished. Okay. So like Tracee would send me, the definition of a card, for example. I had no idea what it was going to look like. And I feel like when I am creating, I am in that in-between space. I'm not here physically, I'm somewhere else. And all my creations come from that space, like you said, where you can access that creativity, where you still yourself and you just let spirit work through you. That's what I feel. To me, that's what kind of the in-between is. I don't know if that makes sense, but it does in my head.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's interesting because you both are seeing it on this sort of extra plane level, like this sort of like space that's in between our reality and other planes. And I guess maybe it's the computer programmer in me from another life years ago, that I see it more on a sort of literal basis in terms of, and going through editing the deck and looking at the pictures that are so beautiful that you created, Yasmeen. That I see it as that place you get to where you don't, you almost feel stuck, or you know where you need to move to, but for some reason you're staying with the fear. Some reason you're afraid to move forward. Sometimes the path isn't always clear where to go next. So I guess I want to, like, thinking of all the things that we're talking about now. Tracee, when should you use this deck as opposed to other decks? When do you gravitate towards this one?
Well, so it's interesting. So just to comment on what you're talking about. So when, like, in that place in between, like I want to use the word transition to what you just said. And when it seems murky and unclear, it has to do with our awareness of the in-between. So if you're a very physical world-based person and your focus is there, going into the in-between, being aware of your thoughts, your feelings, and the other dimensions of energy, this deck helps you tune into that. It helps you become more aware of those dimensions.
I was sort of, as I was working with this deck, I sort of had the grander vision of the magician card, of being in between the two places and trying to bring the spirit down to reality, and maybe vice versa. But the magician being this deck. Almost.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. Magician is the deck.
Yes, magician is the deck. That's a good tagline.
So when should I grab for this deck as opposed to others?
Anytime, frankly, because here's the fun thing that I love, is that you can use this deck with any other deck that you use. Like if you're a tarot reader and you really prefer that, or you have a deck that you prefer, you can use this to enhance it, because this is going to give you that expanded connection that connects to your own intuition and your own spiritual language, right? Which is what any deck is intended to get you into, your own spiritual language and understanding. But this is a great deck to inspire you. I do morning cards with it. Like, for example, I'll pull one and then we can all give our opinion of it, or a story, whatever your story is about it. But so for a morning card, I would just choose one. Ooh, and we got timeline.
Oh, yes. That one.
Right. And if you look at where my nail is, that's the phases of the moon. And today is the new moon. Yes.
Today, yeah.
The new moon.
Well, it's great that you pulled this card because I pulled some cards for myself this morning that maybe we'll go through. But I was also going to ask which cards speak to you the most. And I know that the timeline was the one that was speaking to me the most right now.
Interesting. And what is it saying to you?
Well, the timeline card I find to be so beautiful because there's in some healing circles, there's a process that one can go through where you take a big, huge sheet of paper and you just you list all the things that make you who you are in the moment. Like all the you actually sort of draw a map, a physical map of your life, like when you were a child, growing up, what decisions you made that led to where you are now. And this reminded me of that because then you can also take that map and decide, well, what is it? Where do I want to move next? And what is it I want to achieve? And where do I want to go? And so that's what this card is saying to me. It's time to like take stock. What's brought you to this point? And then where do you want to move next?
Yeah. How about you, Yasmeen? What's the message and timeline for you? Like, tell us about the art or how you experienced it.
Oh God. Like I said, a lot of the time I don't know why I'm creating something, right? It just happens. But I think pretty much like what you said there, it's the timeline card for me is us and how we go through like so much change and transition over different periods of time. We're never the same person that we were, say, I don't know, one full moon ago, you know? And you know, from moon phase to moon phase, we're learning, we're growing, we're different people. We're never the same people. And I think even though it feels like time has stood still, because if you look at the hourglass, it's just stood still, right? We're still changing. We're still changing, even though it appears like we're not. So I think that's where I was going with that card, or that's where the message was going with that card. Because you know the glass is just still, it's not moving, it's not lying on its side, it's just stood there. And yet the moon is revolving around it and the phases are changing, and like us, and again, moon is emotions, isn't it? So the emotions are constantly up and down and just changing with the moon. So plus I also love full moons. I was born in one, so I always have to try and put a full moon in there somewhere.
I love that. I love that sort of correlation to like feelings aren't facts, but they're real. So that it can feel like you're standing still. And yet the reality is things are moving around
constantly
around you. Yeah. And yet it still feels somehow like you're not moving anywhere.
Yeah. But you are. You're changing constantly, even though you can't see it.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting for both of you is that when I think of timeline, I immediately, I think I resonate with the moon, but I see timelines as like lines of energy going out into the universe. And so each thought, each feeling, each idea is its own timeline. So if I want today to be a success, right? And that I send that timeline out there, and the more I pay attention to it, the more I nurture it, the more that becomes the powerful, the empowered timeline, right? We have 1,000 timelines, but it's where we put our energy that amplifies those out in the universe, and then they intersect, and oh my God, it's a whole mess out there. But it just I see it as a bunch of different separate connections that all lead to the one.
So I'm curious, how did you two work together? Like, what was the process like? I mean, I know how it was handed off to me, and it was mostly pretty much done by that point in terms of imagery and the ideas that you wanted to impart, Tracee. But what was the process like before it got to me?
You want that one?
No, you can start off because it was your creation. You came to me with it. So
Okay, so well, interestingly enough, so we decided we wanted to do a deck, and I think at that point I didn't no, neither of us really had an idea of what exactly we wanted to do.
But
or
you
what,
knew you wanted to work with Yasmeen.
Yes, absolutely. And so, of course, she's in Scotland. It's eight hours difference there, and we got together on a Zoom. There's 1 hour of time where that's when we could meet, 11 a.m.
there's
Pacific.
always that 1 hour, which is like now.
Right now, the in-between. Yeah.
In
That
between.
1
Yeah,
hour.
it's always 7 p.m. my time. I'll be right. 7 p.m. I can do.
Yes. So we got together for a meeting, and we talked about each of our own separate goals and the ideas and thoughts we'd had. And for me, it's always important to create an educational piece as well. And so I wanted to expand on this idea of helping people. In the back of the book, I talk about where you're embarking on a transformative journey to the crossroads of where science and spirituality connect, imagination meets manifestation, and personal truths become universal truth. And I wanted to create an art piece that would help stimulate people's understanding that everything is interconnected, and that from one place we can expand into a whole other place in a way that we don't necessarily have to have control of, that we can access and call on the support of the larger universe just by understanding that's possible. And so we came up with about 64 single words.
I remember now.
Dynamics, right? And then we both went through each one and checked off yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And I think all of them except for about 5. There were about 5 of them that I was like yes, and she was like no, and
And what was important about those words to you? That they.
Well, I think that each of us have our own paradigm and what resonates with us, or what we think is valuable or important, and then just what isn't. And since we were going to try to pare it down to 48, I don't know, we fluctuated between 60, and then we got it down to 52, and then finally a couple of them, I don't know, for whatever reason, it just didn't connect to the next process, which was doing the art and to the writing. So those got eliminated, and we ended up with 48.
Yeah, I think there were some words we were resistant to as well. We had our own resistances to some of the words, didn't we? I can't remember. There was one, I can't remember now which one it was. I was very resistant to. Do you remember? But I can't remember what that word was now. I think it's in our email somewhere, I'm sure.
It is. God, what was it? I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this one. She's like, no, you can do it. I know you can do it. And I was like, you need to push through that. Find out why you're resistant to that word. I cannot remember what that word was now. But we did do it because you wouldn't let me let it go. I remember you wouldn't let it go.
Deliverance was one that, like, deliverance is a part of my everyday life. Like that word is like home to me.
It was for me. It was one word that was a struggle. I'll have to go through all our emails and look now.
Yes.
Generosity.
No. I can't remember now. It's there somewhere, but obviously it's not that important now. The fact that I can't remember it. So.
Oh, ritual.
That was the one. Yes. Oh my God. Yes, I struggled with that one.
Yeah, and so basically, what I did is I wrote a first draft of the meaning, not necessarily the divination meaning of the card, but just the general meaning of the dynamic that we're talking about. And I wrote a first draft of that, and then I sent that to her. And then when we got to ritual, and it was funny because I think ritual it's number 34. And that was, I think, the last card that we did, because she kept saying, oh yeah, no, I got it. And then it didn't get done. And like, she kept putting it off. And I'm like, do ritual. I need ritual.
Well, what was it, Yasmeen? What is it about ritual?
I have my reasons why. I saw as, for me, I associated that with religion. And I was like, I didn't want to go there and I didn't want to do that. And then when Tracy's like, no, it's not religion. How about you do this? And I'm going, oh yeah, it doesn't have to be religion.
Yeah. So at first she had done this kind of church scene with all these candles, the big altar, and she felt very disgruntled about it. And I'm like, no, we don't need to do all that. This to me is what an altar is. Right. And so we created, we have all kinds of little animals. There's birds and bunnies and squirrels and bees and a blue jay and a horse, and everybody is contributing to the altar. And of course there wouldn't be lit candles, but that's okay, because this is our fantasy world. This is the in-between.
Yeah. Nothing in there makes sense.
They'd be LED candles, right?
Exactly. Yeah. In California, we would not allow that sort of ritual. But anyway, so I wanted it in my mind. A ritual is something that you enact over and over that helps you create a pattern and a connection with your creator, whomever that is, whether it's your higher self, whether it's the universe, spirit, the great spirit, whatever it is to you.
Well, it is interesting that this is the card that presented some sort of problems, because I mean, I kind of see this as one of the like base cards of the whole deck. With all the other cards, it needs some sort of, has its foot in the ritual world. There's that in-between place. I don't think there's any moving on if you haven't established a ritual for yourself. Either mentally or physically, or that's what helps you get in touch with that honesty and that that chance to have the expansion that you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was hilarious too, because Yasmeen and I didn't know each other well, right? We've been acquainted for a few years, but we've had a couple of conversations, but we didn't know. I don't know how she works. I don't know what she, I didn't know all the stuff about her, nor did she know me. And so it's always interesting when you are in a new partnership with someone you don't know and you have to compromise, which I don't do very well.
Neither do I.
What, Tracee? What do you mean?
I know. It seems so counterintuitive to my magnanimous personality. But it was very interesting because a couple of the cards, I was thinking, I realized I said to myself, I don't think she's even reading this. Like, I don't even, because whatever picture you came up didn't match my image of what it should look like. Again, that's my own, this is my image. Anyway, it was interesting to say, okay, well, so what did you get from this? And we would go back and forth until we came up with something that resonated with us both.
Yeah.
Right. And that was, and it was good, but that's.
So Yasmeen, going the other way, did you ever say to Tracee, like, oh, I don't like what you wrote here?
No, just for the ritual one, I didn't understand it. Maybe I never said to her I didn't like what she wrote. Sometimes I wouldn't understand what she'd written, and I would message her, go, what do you mean by this? Like, and then she would come back to me with explaining what it meant, and then it would make sense. But no, I think, we didn't fall out or nothing. We but no, it was fine. We went backwards and forwards on a couple of the cards, which is fine. Yes. And like you said, usually I work on my own and I do my own thing, and the art is mine and I'm used to it. So for me, this was, okay, I'm working with someone else. It's totally different. I have worked with someone else before and it's been different with them as well. So each person's different, but no, a compromise is the right word. I mean, I'm a stubborn Scorpio, but I had to compromise too. So no, it was good. I'm glad. I love the final product. So, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
So there's two cards I want to share. One, this is one of the ones that we went back 2 or 3 times on, and it started out, it's receptivity, and it started out, she had an egg, and I was like, I don't understand the egg. I don't understand. And we went back and forth, and then we got this little chick who's very cute. But the funny thing about this little chick is that I I still don't know what that I says. And that was one of the things that I realized. I had to say to myself, these cards aren't for me, meaning I'm not creating this deck for myself so that every card has a definitive meaning for me. Every person is going to receive these how they receive them. And so I was sure we were as complete as we could be. But this I, what does that I say to the two of you? You and
I love the I love the chick.
And I don't know why I did the check. I just knew there had to be an egg in there somewhere, right? Remember, I don't create them consciously, right? I just knew there had to be an egg in there. And you were like, oh, maybe have a little crack and a wee bird coming out eventually. I was like, yeah, the egg has to stay in, but let's have a chicken. And
yes, I was calling it the receptivity chick.
Oh, I like that.
And because, well, to me, it really actually
newborn, right?
There's a wisdom in that eye. And yet it's a newborn chick.
Exactly. It's an old soul.
You know, so to me it's saying like you're open up to new things and you can see them for what they are.
I like it.
You've finished your explanation.
That was the last thing in the deck that it just hadn't gotten here yet.
There you go.
What the heck does that mean? What is that I?
She's like, why have you got a chick? I went, I don't know. It just has to be there. Don't ask me why. I just go with the flow, with whatever comes to me.
Receptivity, chick eye.
Chick eye. Well, it's funny when I look at the eye. I definitely I see the wisdom, but before I saw like being pissed. So like what have you wanted me to?
Oh no, to me it's all about I see what's going on here. I get it.
I love it.
Can't pull one over on me.
Now here is one. This is a beautiful card. This is a piece of art that Yasmeen had done a few years ago. May I tell them what it's about, or would you like to tell them?
You can tell them. It's okay. I mean, it's hanging up in my house. So
yeah. It's a depiction of her husband who died by suicide about 3 years ago. 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
So anyway, he's on this ATV, and he's got all his stuff and all of these patches of all the places he's been, and he's riding through this beautiful fall scenario, and then into the light. And we had the piece of art, and then I picked the concept of trust to go with it, because to me that is the ultimate in trust, in understanding that there is a new place to go and be.
It's an adventure. It's meant to be a motorbike. He loved his motorbikes. Mm-hmm. And I did this for his birthday, I think, the year before he passed. And it's hanging up in my room. And it was just perfect. It was just perfect for that card. So it's in there now, which is lovely.
Yeah. So yay.
Interesting. I saw it more as a it's about knowing what's ahead, and trusting in that vision.
Yes.
Even though the journey is perilous and risky. So,
right.
I mean, I see motorbike and I immediately hear, my mother's voice, God rest her soul, saying, never buy a motorbike, never get on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And so to me, they represent this sort of risk taking. And so you're taking this risk and yet moving into a future that you see regardless.
Right. I love it. I think so.
Yeah.
So before I get to like one of my big questions for you both, I wanted to share with you a reading I did for myself this morning, because it was it gives a little bit of like clarity to some of the cards, I think, and we can discuss them then. And so the first one I pulled was, believe it or not, Rift.
That came up this morning. That was the first card I picked.
Yes. Really? So, and followed immediately by Speak.
Oh, I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
and home. So, I mean, it's sort of amazing because, you know, I'm in this place right now where I feel lost and bewildered. And I feel a great change coming. And in response to that, what I've decided to do is just concentrate on my creativity and my house. And that's like exactly what the cards are saying. It's like, okay, there's a time coming, the Rift card, which is, you know, akin to the Tower card. You know, there's a time
I feel it's
coming.
a breakthrough, yeah.
Yeah, where things are just going to change. So there's a lot of busyness coming ahead. There's, you know, but then the Speak card came up, which was really to me about communication. So watching my communication, watching what I'm saying, watching what I'm doing in terms of communicating with others. But it also has this great alter meaning in terms of having to concentrating on your artistic works and your creativity. And I love this card so much.
I love that too. That's one of my favorites.
And then it was followed up by home, which, you know, I know that the booklet and the description speaks a sort of like going back to basics, maybe. I am taking it quite literally, whereas one of the things I decided to do was actually, when I'm not working on my creative side, I'm going to be working on my home space and making it a safe space for me. So I've got a place to go to during those crazy times ahead.
Yes.
So anyway, what do you think about that, Trace? Do you think I'm right with that reading, or?
Absolutely. And I've been doing the exact same thing. I have this. So yesterday I interviewed a woman, Master Clarice Chan. She's a feng shui master. And we were talking about the year 2025. And in the year 2025, the center of the home. So in 2024, in February, we went from a period 8 to a period 9 in feng shui. It's a cycle of 20 years. And it's the beginning of a new cycle. And every new cycle has a chart. And in this chart, there was a maligned flying star. It's called the 5 yellow star in the center of the home. It's in the sector of the center of the home. And the 5 yellow has to do with illness, calamity. You know, it's energy that is discordant and in conflict. And so and it's a fire period. So those two elements are at odds with each other. And so what you do is you cool down the center of your home with colors like blue or blue, black, any form of blue, green, anything to cool fire. So you don't use red, you don't use orange, you don't use fiery colors, you use cool colors. Well, and that's a muted color. So, and it really depends on where you are in your building. It's a whole thing. But the point is for the last 5 years, I have this attic that spans, I have a little itty bitty house and it spans the length of my house. And so I literally have these stairs. I pull down the stairs, throw something up there, shut it. And so there was just piles of stuff and then there were rodents in there for a couple of years. And I was just like, I just can't deal with any of it. Anyway, and I realized that is the center of my home. The biggest mess. The energy started waning 5 years ago and leading till now. So bottom line is I've spent the last 3 months, took everything out, got rid of half of it. And then I completely renovated up there and rebuilt the roof and the floor, and then added some flooring and some drywall and some blue paint. and now it's very peaceful and clean. And in that center space, I've got 2 areas for storage, but that center space is only for tranquil living. No storage is allowed in that space. And anyway, and I think that, you know, when you're in a situation where you cannot control the outside world, you have to really begin to control your inside world, which is your creative self, your spirituality, your thoughts, your beliefs, and your physical world. Now's the time to purge. If you haven't loved it in a long time, get rid of it. You know, you've got, now's the time to make those decisions and pass things on to other people who can use them. You know, or if you have antiques, you know, do things to refurbish them and restore them and give them new life. Right. So, you know, it's about whatever you have in your space, in your life, renew your commitment to that thing. And I think that to me is what that reading is saying, is it's about renewing your commitment to whatever is in your life.
Right. It's also going back to the ritual card. I think, you know, you can't establish a ritual for yourself for self-healing unless you've got the physical and mental space for it.
Right.
You know? So it's about purging, going through things, moving things around to make things more livable, and then establishing some sort of ritual to start getting in touch with some of those other creative things.
Absolutely. You know what you should get, Stephen, is some sort of artwork in back of you of the ocean.
Nice.
Or a waterfall or something to depict water.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I'm just looking to see if I've got anything water.
Well, you've got gray. Gray is also
gray curtains. Yeah.
I've got grey curtains, but the rest of my house, apart from this room, the rest of my house is blue-green, different shades of blue-green in the rest of the house.
Perfect.
Yeah, the rest of my house is blue-gray. So
yeah,
there you go.
But I wanted orange in the bedroom as a sort of because I've always felt orange as a healing.
Yes.
So give me those healing vibes while I sleep.
Yes, indeed.
I love blue. A lot of my cards are that bluey colored of the speak card. Not just in this deck, but in most of my decks, that blue color seems to be quite dominant, that bluey green sort of color.
Yeah. So we're getting to a time to wrap it up. So
okay, I just had one more question.
Yes.
So for each of you, how do you think these cards can benefit us as a collective in this moment? And that might be a different thing for you, Yasmeen, but I almost said Vivian Westwood. That might be a different thing for you, Yasmeen, being in Scotland, but still, what do you think?
So I think that people have to start being accountable for why they do what they do. People, you know, if there's any part of you that blames somebody else for your circumstances or the circumstances outside of you, or you're doing something because somebody else said so, right? You need to take a good hard look at yourself, at what you're doing and why you're giving over your authority. Because when you do that, or when you don't do your research, or when you deliberately ignore the facts and figures that are outside of you and you just choose not to deal with them, or, you know, when there are people who are, they're just not to be trusted because they're untrustworthy, right? When you give your power to those people and you trust them, the problem is with you, not with them. You know, they were honest. They did what they did and they owned what they did. So I think in general, this is a gentle way to begin that process of really looking at what you do, why you do it, and why it's valuable to you. And if it's not bringing you what you want or need or the response that you wanted in your outside life, then you begin to make changes, and it gives you everything that you need to be able to do that.
It gives you everything you need to be you, I guess. You can't, you know,
Yeah.
it's easy to blame other people when you don't know who you are because you don't know what you stand for. So let's blame everybody else. I think
Right.
these cards allow you to bring it back to you. Who are
Yeah.
you? Use the cards to discover who that person is. And then maybe we can all make a difference once we're all being who we are.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Use the cards to discover who you are. I love that.
Yes. Well, I think that's fantastic. So, Stephen, where can people find you and your work?
Well, I've got a book up on Amazon called The Keepers of Manon, MANA'. Actually, I just happen to have a copy.
Yes, you do.
Um,
It's a
and
wonderful book.
And that's also at thekeepersofmanon.com. So either on Amazon or there. I'm also on Facebook, Stephen J. Miller, content creator, editor. So that's, if somebody wants to look me up, drop me an email. I'd love it. So
Beautiful. Yasmeen?
I'm on Facebook. I have a website as well, and obviously we've got this deck that's releasing today.
Yes.
But I've had a tarot deck just release last month as well. I don't know if I'm allowed to show it here. Am I?
Of course.
It's the Westwood Tarot. Don't know if you can see it, if there's any light shining on it. Probably light shining on it.
There you
But
go.
that's a tarot deck that it's all animal based and it's fairy tales and it's all whimsical and fun. And I'm currently working on another tarot deck at the moment. So quite busy as well as holding down a full-time job. So, but I am on Facebook as at Enchanted Soul, Enchanted Soul Art on Instagram, sorry, and under Yasmeen Westwood on Facebook, as well as having a website as well, which is enchantedsoulart.co.uk. I'm trying to remember all these names.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you can find me. And
if you want to buy the deck in the UK, anywhere in the UK,
I have copies of them. Yeah, come to me.
it.
Buy off my website. I'm selling them on my website and the calendar as well for 2025. The calendar is gorgeous. Okay.
Yes.
So please buy it.
Yes, yes, indeed. And of course, you guys know you can reach me everywhere, but TraceeDunblazier.com, beaslayer.com, GoTraceePublishing.com, and definitely go out today and purchase Oracle of the In-Between. Purchase anywhere books are sold, small or large bookstores, but buy today or tomorrow over the weekend. We want to have the biggest weekend ever.
Yes. So, and can I say, if you buy from me from the UK, I'll sign it as well. I'll sign the deck and post it out to you. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank
it was
you.
really
It was wonderful. Wonderful to meet you.
I know it's been lovely to create this deck with you. So it's out in the world now. Let's make it fly.
Bye.